And you're a lawyer.
That's right.
You don't present the image that we carry of a Muslim woman. I think audiences expect to see...
Shoot, I forgot my veil at home. What can I tell you?
Are you acceptable to other Muslims, the way you live and act and dress?
Well, I would be incorrect to say that I am acceptable to all Muslims the way I am. Let me say that as far as my clothing, it should be acceptable. There is no problem with that. The question arises usually as to why I'm not wearing a headdress. I have my own answers for that when I'm asked. I believe I'm doing the right thing, but that's all really in the area of ijtihad, or reasoning on the basis of the holy text of the Quran.
Are you free to use your own reasoning?
Absolutely. That's the heart of Islam. That's absolutely the heart of Islam. You couldn't have asked a more basic question. Now you got me all interested. You see, the Quran, we believe, is a holy revelation from God. And to that extent, it is eternal. The message of the Quran is eternal. God does not change his mind. Whatever truths are there are good for Muslims in all times and in all places. There's another dimension to the Quran, though, that sometimes gets confused with the first, namely that many of the ayahs were revealed in a specific context, in a specific society and a specific historical era. So they address some of that specificity. As a Muslim scholar, you ought to be able to sort of disengage these various elements and figure out what is the rule in that specific situation, or even in the general Quranic principle that is relevant to your time and place. Because in Islam, it's better to think and be wrong than not to use your head at all, because God gave you that head. And because part of the responsibility you are going to be faced with is individual. If you do the wrong thing tomorrow and then you face your Creator, and your Creator says, why did you do this wrong? You can't say, because my teacher told me, or my father told me, or my sister, or even my ruler told me. Because you have moral responsibility, you have your mind. Everyone has a mind of their own. God did not give us a collective mind, although God gave us a collective responsibility in a society to advise each other and try to lead each other the right way. But in the final analysis, what you do is your moral responsibility. So if you don't engage in ijtihad, if you're mere follower, you're still responsible for the wrong acts you make. And most of all, you're responsible for not having thought, for not having made that effort.
In ijtihad, did I say it right?
Absolutely.
You come in your conscience to conflict with what your society or even what religious teachers tell you.
That's very possible, and that's the realm of the conscientious objector. You see, Islam is at heart. Forget about what you see in terms of historical manifestations. We're talking now text, we're talking religion. At heart, Islam is a democratic religion. I used to think of Muslim women...
You've become more religious in studying
I was born
Islam.
again.
A born-again Muslim.
Well, I was raised as a Muslim, as I said, and then I became an atheist for quite a few years. And then it really is, for me, a personal journey. I did not become a Muslim for an objective, external reason. I have my own conviction through my own ijtihad, my own faith, leap of faith, my own experience.
Can I ask what brought you back?
Well, for a while I was a philosopher. I think I might have mentioned that. I was a philosophy professor, and I was teaching Hegel, Marxist theory, feminist theory, etc. But like feminists say, very often women refer to a hole right here, you know, and something missing. And I had that hole, and I didn't know what was missing. I was very happy and successful in my life. And then I had some problems. Like everybody else, you go through difficult periods and easy periods in your life. And I had to face myself at one point and ask myself through a very interesting spiritual journey, who am I? Is there a superior being? Am I willing to recognize that there is a being superior to me because I was young and successful and arrogant? And I decided that having thought about it, I do believe in God. And when I decided that I believed in God, I also understood that I have to pray. And the most difficult act for me was the very act of prayer, when I had to bow down to God, because that clinched it, that I was not a superior being. Now you might laugh about that, but in fact this arrogance is very interesting. It's not unusual. It's unusual in people who are independent and intelligent, etc., to be willing to submit to a higher authority. I resent authority. That's really, it was more than arrogance, is that I resent authority. The authority I was familiar with was patriarchy. The God that was presented to me was an angry patriarchal God.
I was going to ask you, what God is it that you're praying to? How can you?
My God is merciful. I've decided that the image of God presented to me through the culture is erroneous. And I can know this from the very first ayah in the Quran. The minute you open the Quran, the very first verse is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, and then two words, each one of them meaning merciful. Okay? That's the God that I'm worshiping. The God in whose name I have to repeat these adjectives every time I read the Quran in front of every surah and every verse. By the way, you know, in the political system, I might throw this in because of the discussion in Kuwait. You know, the discussion in the Kuwait, should women vote or not vote? Should we allow them to vote? Well, I mean, how could it be a question, please? If you open the Quran, it says right there that when the Prophet was being elected as a head of state at his time, because he was elected, it was not something, he didn't say, I'm the Prophet, follow me. People actually chose him through a form of election called al-bay'ah, where they come and shake his hand and they say, you're the leader. And if enough of them do it, then he is. Well, the women came to the Prophet as a delegation. A women's delegation came to give the bay'ah to the Prophet. This is in the Quran. And the Prophet sat with them and had discussions with them and said, you know, let me make sure. They
voted.
Yeah, they voted. And they voted as women. He didn't tell them, what are you doing here? Ha, 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 go back home. This is none of your business. Not at all. He had a discussion with them. And women have played a big role. I mean, if you read the Quran, there was a woman who came to the Prophet and argued with him about religion. And there's a whole surah about her called The Woman Who Argued.
Are women spiritual equals?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're all created by the same God. What would ever give anybody the idea that women are not?